Hi guys, I hope you're doing well. With everything going on, I decided that I'm going to try to go a different direction with the channel for the time being. I don't want to fill it with just updates or gloom or doom or whatever because, I don't know, I want to make it fun, give you something different to watch if possible. I do kind of want to say a little bit of, I don't know, I've had some different things happen today. I had one student that hasn't been turning in assignments for weeks come back and sit there and say, oh yeah, by the way, I lost my workbook. And so I was like, oh, well that's good to know. And so, working overtime. But don't all teachers. And so, anyways. But with that frustration and stuff, I was like, you know, I want to try to share some stories just so you can get to know us a little better. And one of the things that I want to share about, I actually would like to make a series about, is Camp Tippy and what it means to us. The last video I posted was about Camp Tippy and how things are going to look different this year. And so I want videos, I want to make videos that are encouraging and lift up other people that are considering going to camp or missing camp or whatever, because it's a staple of life. Once you're a Camp Tippy kid, you know, always a Camp Tippy kid. And you know, once Rebecca is your mom, she's always your mom, kind of thing. And so the story I wanted to share today is how Dan and I met. So you probably have already guessed, Camp Tippy has a big role in how Dan and I met. And it was not me. It was totally a God thing. It wasn't Dan. Honestly, I think if it had been in a different world, our paths probably would have never have crossed, just because we grew up in two different home environments and situations. And he's 3.5 years older than I am, and so the fact that we met is a blessing and just an amazing story in itself. So I have been going to Camp Tippy for my summers since the year between my sixth and seventh grade year. So, you know, since middle school started, that's when I went to Camp Tippy. And our relationship actually really started that first year, and I didn't even realize that it did. So I was at camp, and one of the things that my summers and spring breaks and a lot of that was filled with when I was a kid, especially in elementary and lower middle school, was surgeries. You know, because spring break is a week. If you have surgery on Monday or Tuesday, that gives you the rest of the week to recover. But this time around, I had arm surgery over spring break. And so I was to the point where I just had like this little wrist covering just to protect it, an extra cushion, and that kind of thing. And so I was over that, and I was going to camp. Camp was a week long, so you were dropped off Sunday evening, and then you went home Saturday morning. And so we were I guess this would have been Thursday night. Yeah, Thursday night we were in our cabins, and the cabins are filled of bunk beds, and so about 8 people total, with like 7 campers, 1 cabin leader can sleep in a cabin. And so we were in the cabin at night, and we were doing our devotions. And after devotions, our cabin leader said, so does anybody have any prayer requests, anything you want to share, anything you want to talk about or whatever? And there was kind of some silence, and so I spoke up. I said, this isn't any big deal, because I've had this before, but the Monday after camp I'm gonna have my 3rd eye surgery. But it's just eye surgery, like I'll go in, I'll have it, and I'll go home the same day. No biggie, like we don't have to tell anybody else, but if you want to pray for it right here and there, sure, go ahead, pray for it. And they did, and they were, really nice, and so I figured, yay, that'll be the end of it. And then we had campfire come Friday night, our last night there, and the camp pastor got up and he said, okay, we have somebody that we should pray for. And I was like, okay. And he said, I was told by one of the cabin leaders that there is a camper that's going to be having surgery on Monday. It's like, oh no. I had asked the cabin leader, everybody, please don't say anything. Like, this is my first year of camp. I don't want to be embarrassed. This camp was like 7th grade to 12th grade. So I was I was the youngest there practically. And so, and he's like, Brittany, come on up here. Let's pray for you. Yep. I was prayed for, and there was the whole entire camp. And I know, like, now that it was probably a blessing. I was shy. I went to a Baptist church growing up. This was a Baptist church camp. Like, you didn't do the big groups and huggies and prayer, and it just wasn't a thing. And so I was embarrassed. And they prayed for me and whatever. Saturday came, we said our goodbyes, went home. So I had surgery on that Monday, and it went well. It did what it was supposed to. I think I threw up on the way home or whatever, because like when you have eye surgery, they're messing with your nerves, and so that can make you sick. But then it was I think it was Wednesday? Yeah, so Wednesday, I get this letter, and my eyes are still recovering, so I'm not like reading a ton, or so I asked my mom. I said, hey, can you look at this letter? She's like, oh, it's from a boy. I'm like, a boy? I'm I'm still kind of the age back then of like, oh boy, gross, ew. And she read it, and it essentially said, I've got the letter somewhere, hope I can find it someday. Hey, I heard you're having surgery. I hope it goes well. Let me know where you're having surgery. I'll come see you in the hospital and check up on you or whatever. And I was like, okay. And so when I got to the point when I was feeling better, I was like, I should write him back. And I didn't know at this point who it was. I hadn't seen a picture. I hadn't hung out with the guy. I didn't know who he was. And so I wrote him back, and I was like, hey, sorry to inform you, I had this surgery like right after camp, and it's over. It was just going there, having the surgery, coming back. It's done. My my eyes are good and blah, blah, blah. And I think I told him something else. And so I sent him that letter. Well, and then he wrote me back. We wrote back and forth and back and forth. And eventually, I don't remember exactly when, but I told my friend that went to camp with me, and I was like, so this boy's been writing me, and I'm not exactly for sure who he is. Do you know? And she said, and she kind of had an idea, and he didn't send me a picture until like later on in the year. And so yeah, for a year we wrote letters back and forth, and then we got to camp the next year. And you would think, like, after writing back and forth for a year, that we'd like be dying to see each other and, you know, meet each other in person and whatnot. No, not really. I actually liked his best friend, and I took a picture with his best friend where he let me get on his back so that I could be taller than his best friend. But anyways, so we go through the whole entire week of camp. Didn't really talk. This year, my cousin went with me, and it was an enjoyable week. Well, at this camp, the last night, we had a concert. And so I'm in the back with my cousin, and, you know, she didn't want to go to the front, and so since she didn't want to go to the front, I didn't want to go to the front, so we're just hanging out in the back. And Dan and his friend come up to us, and they're like, hey, you should come up and like dance with us and mosh and whatever. And we're like, no, you know, that's okay, and thinking, oh, that's so embarrassing. And so anyways, they ended up dragging us up to the front, and it was really hot in there, and I was tired, and so my left leg hurt, so I sat down. And Daniel sat down beside me, and he's like, why are you sitting down? You know, everybody else is standing up and having fun, and you're sitting down. And I was like, well, my leg's tired, and I can't stand for, you know, long periods of time. And he's like, well, I can put, you know, my arm around you and help you stand up. And so I was like, okay. And so anyways, he put his arm around me, and then people were like, are you dating? And we kind of looked at each other sheepishly, and we're like, I don't know. And so it was just, I don't know, it was so innocent. There was no motives or anything behind it. And then we get to Saturday, you know, when everybody's supposed to say goodbye and everything, and I was like, wait a minute, like, we're just building this relationship, and we have to say goodbye now. And so I told him, I sat there and said, like, you need to get your license, because he was 17 at this time, didn't have his license yet. I was like, you need to get your license and come visit me. And we swapped home phone numbers at the time, which was, you know, funny, because people don't even have phones at home anymore. And so we, I think, talked once a week, and the relationship progressed from there. I don't want to tell you all of it, because I can save the rest of that for another video. But yeah, it was just, with how everything started, you know, we were both young, and so it's not like we were like, I must find my mate and find that person for the rest of my life. Like, we were just trying to follow what the Lord wanted, and he brought us together. And so that's the story of how Dan and I met. Hope you enjoyed this story time, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye. God bless.